meeting with American Nation Mortgage. I have as a guest today Kevin Kwan from Kwan Agency. I have also Anthony Kwan, qualified individual and mortgage loan officer for American Nation Mortgage. I'm Carlos Kwan, founder and CEO of American Nation Mortgage. So I want to introduce you, our team here. Kevin, tell us a little bit about yourself and you know about what you do.
Howdy, howdy. How we doing, guys? My name's Kevin. If you didn't know that, I run an insurance agency that does home, auto, commercial, and life. And I think what it really boils down to is that we try to be as much of a white glove service and reliable to our clients as possible. Insurance is something that's simple until it's not. And when it's not simple, that's really where we can shine and make sure that we help you out every step of the way. I tell my clients all the time, listen, let me take care of the insurance, you take care of everything else. And thank you so much, Carlos, Pops, for having me here. I really appreciate it. And I think we got a lot of good things to talk about, both for homeowners that are looking to buy, as well as realtors and other people involved in the home buying process. So thanks again for having me for this lunch discussion. Anthony and Pops, looking forward to getting down to the nitty gritty of insurance.
All right. Thank you for the introduction, Kevin. So I'm gonna go to Anthony. Anthony, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Anthony Kwan. I'm the qualified individual for American Nation Mortgage. I originate loans. I market for the company. I'm always reaching out to real estate agents, pretty much anyone in the industry to learn and to just make sure I'm specialized in my craft and making sure I'm getting my clients the best deal possible. So for me, it's really important that I learn as much as I can and I put it all to good use. So this is our second show, so I'm really excited to have Kevin on so he could just talk about a little bit of insurance and just keep everyone informed. So that's what I got for today.
All right, great. So thank you for the introduction, both of you guys. And just a disclosure, we're a family company. We are we are your local lender. We are located in Denville, New Jersey, but we do business on the whole state in Florida, and soon, very soon, will be additional states coming in. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn it to Anthony because Anthony has some good questions for Kevin, who's going to enlighten us about the process of homeowners insurance along with flood insurance. So go ahead, Anthony. You have some questions for Kevin, correct?
Yeah, so what's the difference between homeowners insurance and flood insurance? Are they the same?
Great question, Anthony. So no, we're talking apples and oranges. And, homeowners insurance covers specific things like fire, theft, and general property damage, right? It excludes flood insurance. And one of the ways that you could take a look at that is that flood insurance is very specific. It covers water coming from the outside into the home, like rising water or flooding. And it's important to note those two differences because you don't want to be in a position where you call in to your homeowner's insurance reporting a claim, okay, and then next thing you know, they reject it because it's water from the outside in. And those are one of the times where it's really beneficial to have like an insurance agent or someone that you can rely on to call in and kind of gauge you and guide you into the best next steps. So to answer your question, no, homeowners insurance and flood insurance, two different things, apples and oranges.
All right, well, that's great to know.
So I guess you wouldn't need flood insurance in the desert, right?
As an insurance agent, I'm always gonna recommend someone obtain insurance, but I always like to educate them and let them know, hey, like, you're in a desert, so it's very unlikely that you're gonna get flooding. And that's an important part of it, right? Is realizing your risk. What is the likelihood of you needing that insurance? I will say, though, that with the past few years, man, the storms that I have seen and the water damage I have seen has been in places that you would have never thought. would be seeing water damage, saddle broke. I mean, a year ago or 2 years ago when we had those heavy storms in New Jersey, I saw pictures of people kayaking through the streets. And these are places like Denville or Wayne where we would expect flood insurance. These are other places that are, that are pretty much not to be considered not to be considered high likelihood of flood. So I would always say, look into it and kind of gauge your risk. And if you want to get insurance, I always recommend that.
Okay, so how do you know if you need flood insurance?
Great question. So it comes down to the FEMA maps, the Federal Emergency Management Agency maps. They're public. You can find them online, but it's not the easiest to read. And so that's another good part of having an insurance agent on your team, right? As you bring a buyer in, we can go start quoting the home, giving them estimates to the home, and also letting them know, hey, you're in a flood zone A, right? Not like an A plus, the report cards that you want, those flood zones are more likely to flood, okay? If you're in flood zone X, it is unlikely to flood in the next 100 years. And those are the ones that you've got more leeway as to whether you really need them or not.
Is some of my agents, the people that I do business with, they were under the impression that flood insurance could be extremely expensive, but thankfully I was able to turn some of them to you, and you find out that some of those policies are not expensive as they seem. Could you tell us a little bit, why some people think flood insurance is extremely expensive and maybe turn out to be less expensive than they think?
Absolutely. I would say to them, just start the process one step at a time. Okay. Everyone hears, these stories from fulano de tal, from someone else, right? That told them, from a friend, from an uncle, a cousin, that they paid $10,000 in flood insurance. Guys, we have private markets available for people to be paying as low as $350 for flood insurance. And you also have government flood insurance that is available to others. The key thing, though, is to really just start the process and take a look at it, because unless you get a quote, it's all hearsay. Someone else can tell you that it was X, Y, and Z amount, but you need to really just start the process and just see what it is. And at the end of the day, if it's $10,000, you don't have to move forward with it unless it's in a high likelihood area of flooding. And in that case, we have other options for you. Okay, we go to the private market, or you could be grandfathered in to other flood insurance policies. What I mean by that is, in the past few years, New Jersey has been updating their flood zones. Okay, so you will be seeing that some areas are no longer considered flood zones, and there's other areas that are now considered flood zones. The key, though, is to start looking at the flood insurance policies that are there right now to see if you can be grandfathered into that same rate.
Oh, so that's definitely good information that you put on out there. So you're saying that someone could be grandfathered into a policy already existed?
Absolutely. And that's another example as to how we can help out. Like flood insurance, flooding sounds very scary, because it's a real thing. It's a real problem that we have here in New Jersey. New Jersey is mostly below sea level, but there are options and tools in your tool belt so that you can kind of get the most bang out of your buck and make sure that you're paying what you need to to be properly insured.
All right, so that's definitely good information that you have for us. So it seems to me like as a real estate agent perspective, it's good to have an insurance agent under their hand, because they can actually give you a call, right, and ask you questions about it, and you can kind of help before we even start the process, right? So it's
Yeah.
definitely, and that FEMA map that you mentioned, right? Is it something that an agent or a client can call you and maybe ask you, or maybe how difficult is it to use?
So to obtain a flood insurance quote, it really doesn't take more than, 20, 30 minutes. And that is as simple as possible that you can, simplest way to obtain the flood zone. Okay. And it doesn't take long, and it's a great way so you can gauge how much you need to get into this house. At the end of the day, I'm a part of your team. I'm a part of the team to get your client into that home, because if your client doesn't get into your home, none of us will get paid. And so, these are the kind of things that you want to know up front. And that's one of the things that insurance agents can help out, is letting them know, letting your clients know, the home buyers, whether it's in a flood zone, a high likelihood to flood. And also there's other things that we can help out to the realtor and to the buyer. If we run a quote early, we can reveal prior claims on the property so that
Oh, so that's
if your repairs were actually done or not. If there was a roof claim for a year ago that paid out $20,000, the buyer can ask about that and say, hey, has this been completed? Has the water damage in the basement been fixed? These are good talking points and things to bring to the table for any kind of concessions on the seller side.
Oh wow! So what you're saying to me, it's a great opportunity for realtors and buyers. Remember, we've been viewed by realtors and home buyers at the same time, right? Because our feed right now is public, so the information that you're putting out there is great information for a real estate agent and also a home buyer, because now a real estate agent can come to you and ask you, hey Kevin, I want to put an offer on this property. Can you check it out? Okay, make sure there's nothing, no claims on it. And if there's a claim that came on, okay, that could be used as leverage if you're a home buyer, right? So that's the neat thing about having a team of people working for you, because we're all working to get you the best deal as a consumer. And if you are a real estate agent that is part of our team, okay, you can bring this knowledge, and also you can bring these tools to your book or business, so you can help your clients get a better deal. So that's definitely great knowledge that you're providing to us, Kevin. Is there anything else that you think people, realtors, clients should know about flood insurance before we move on to homeowners insurance?
I would just say that, I am a resource for the realtor and for the buyer. Okay. And so there's other ways that we can help out for the flood insurance. There's steps that we can take to minimize the rate that it might cost, and to make sure that your client gets, he gets an affordable flood insurance, and he at least knows what will it take to get into that house, right? Up front. Because what we don't want is our buyers, we wouldn't want them to find out like the week of closing, right? Or, when you're so far into the home buying process. That's where I can shine. I'm a team player, and we all want to get to the end of the line, which is getting the buyer into the home.
Great. Good stuff. Anthony, do you have any question for Kevin? I mean, I'm sure it helped our business.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Kevin's obviously very knowledgeable, brings a lot of knowledge to the table. So how do you go above and beyond for your clients?
Great question, Anthony. Listen, I'm not gonna beat around the bush. I'm in Denver, right? So if you throw a rock down Broadway, you could probably hit 10 different insurance agencies. Okay. What I like to tell my clients is that the simplest thing is I answer my phones and return your calls. Okay. If an agent doesn't call you back, why exactly are you paying them for? You want to make sure that you have a line of communication with your insurance agent before there's a big problem. Okay. Because if you don't know that at the time of a big problem, then you're kind of just relying on yourself. And that's something that I do want to mention is that, here at a Quan agency here in Denver, it's a family-run office, right? And it's humans, live humans that work here and live here in New Jersey. You're not calling a phone bank. You're not calling a virtual assistant, outside of the country. You're talking to people here in Denver. And so the simplest thing I can tell you is that, we return our calls and we try to communicate as best as possible to our clients.
All right, so I got two more questions. I'm gonna kind of put them in one. What do you think is really valuable for realtors to know, and what do you think buyers should be paying attention to at this time?
Yeah, realtors, I would tell them the sooner you get me involved in the process, the more resources and information I can provide to you guys. I know that here in North Jersey, oil tanks are a big problem. One agency can insure above ground and underground oil tanks. And a neat coverage that we can include on there is oil leak coverage. A lot of people don't realize that is a gap. Okay, what that means is if your oil tank leaks, okay, a lot of big red flags, you get the state involved, there's remediation, you got to get the oil tank out of there. We're talking tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, okay? For a small price of like $100, you can get up to upwards of $100,000 in liability protection for oil leak coverage. I mean, that's a no-brainer. And these are some of the small details and small steps that we take to really make sure that our clients are fully covered for different instances. For realtors, I just want to mention again that getting us involved as early as possible gives us the opportunity to give them as much information as we can so that they can use that to the best of their ability during the home buying process. Buyers, okay, so hey, congratulations. You guys are looking for a home. You guys are excited. You guys are ready to move in. You guys, have your dream home or what have you. And there's a few things that I would want you to just pay attention to. Not necessarily things that you need to correct right away, but just think of them as like little memories, right? Little points to come back to, bullet points to come back to, whether at the beginning of the home buying process, or afterwards once you buy the house and you're inside of it. You keep those little bullet points in the back of your head. Some of the bullet points: any prior claims on the property, try to have them reviewed before closing or addressed, just to make sure that they were completely repaired, okay, and that there's nothing else needed for that. Roof condition, this is a big thing that insurance companies are looking at nowadays. They are looking for curled up shingles, discoloration, any kind of layers of roof, they're going to look at that. And that has the potential to cause problems down the road. Overhanging trees. Insurance companies don't want to see overhanging trees for more than 50% of the roof. And trampolines, people, keep them away from the property, okay? It's a high liability risk. I'm sorry, kids, go to your friend's house for those trampolines. And lastly, dogs. I love them. I've got my dog here with me. He's the best employee in the office, #1 salesman. Certain carriers have certain ineligible breeds. It's important to be upfront from the beginning so that we can ensure that wherever we place you, that won't be an issue. In addition, some insurance carriers give liability protection for the dogs and just for people in general. So God forbid, your dog bites someone, your dog runs away on the highway, causes an accident, you could have coverage for that. And it's something so small and minute that you really want to make sure that it's covered or addressed in the get-go so that if there's a big boo-boo, if there's a problem, there's nothing you have to worry about.
Well, I have always said, Kevin, is that you don't know how good insurance is until you have to use it. Okay?
Absolutely.
And also, the thing with insurance is, okay, it's always good to speak to a real person. Okay, the difference between having an insurance agent to having a 1-800 number is that you can talk freely to an agent versus a someone who is in a 1-800 number. So it's to me, it's always better to have someone in person that you can go and see and talk to in person. Okay, and that also works for us as on the mortgage side because without being able to go to you and say, hey, Kevin, the mortgage company wants A, B, C, and D for your insurance. I have, some major insurance company that they might take 7 days to send me the declaration page. And that usually delays my transaction, my mortgage transaction. So uh, for the perspective as a mortgage loan officer, okay, it's super important to have a partner so I can call in and get my stuff right away. Okay. So and also I rely on you as a knowledgeable person. So sometime before I even put a deal together, I ask you questions, about the property, so just to make sure everything is going to go smoothly. I'm not going to have any issues. So I'm glad you're part of the team, and it's very great information about insurance. All right, so I don't know if you have any question for Anthony, something that might be bugging your head regarding mortgages.
I do, and I just want to make one more point there that you brought up. Yeah, so if you have a question for claims and you called into that 1-800 number, that's a ding. Your policy is dinged, and it shows up when you're looking for other insurance policies. And so, speaking to an agent and just gauging your coverages is so important because, like you said, you can speak freely on that. What I did want to ask Anthony was in regards to home buying, how important is knowing any association cost and like whether it's a condo association, a lake association, how important is knowing that up front? And is that something that you would need to know? Like, how soon do you need to know that for?
Right from the start. So really, it's really important because it plays into the DTI, which is your debt to income. So, if your homeowners association is 500 a month, that's 500 that goes into how much you're gonna owe. And if your ratio was at 49 and then I didn't calculate that or I didn't know, that could make a whole deal you scramble trying to make sure that we either fix it some way or another. So really like down to the flood, down to the homeowners insurance, just making sure those numbers fit and they fit into the DTI is super important. We have a few more questions. I just want to keep going on them. I want to ask you, that answers your question, right, Kevin?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, just to make sure that we covered everything. So yeah, really homeowners association, homeowners insurance, flood insurance. I need to know right away if it's going to be included in your expenses because the banks, they don't want to see that you have to pay 60% of your income here when it's late in the process versus if it's in the beginning and that we could work on your expenses, pay something down, and then we make the DTI work, and then you're looking like a fresh file. Versus at the end, then I'm scrambling to make your closing happen. You got to pay this, pay that, and we're moving just a little bit more than we should. But back to insurance, just what trends are you seeing in the market right now that you think people should know about?
So insurance is kind of leveling off now. There are more markets that are starting to open up, and the eligibility requirements are broadening. What I mean by that is there were certain markets that before they would only accept buildings that were built after 1970, or they would only accept roofs that were less than 10 years old, which is insane. Here in New Jersey, I mean, most of these houses are built anywhere from 1800 to like 1920. And there's more affordable add-ons that are coming included. for a fraction of the price. All right, cyber liability will protect you for any cyber related incidents. Equipment breakdown could offer coverage against mechanical failures for your appliances. Okay, we're talking your fridge, your furnace, these big ticket items could have coverage on your homeowner's insurance for like 50, 80 bucks on the year. Underground utility coverage, this is what covers the lines. Think like the gas lines, the water lines from your house to the sidewalk. Those are your responsibility. If there was an issue related to that, you would have coverage under the underground utility coverage, or the service line, I think it's called. And then there's also identity fraud protections that are included onto some homeowners policies, which are always good, especially if you're a small business owner, if you do a lot of online sales, if you do a lot of if you have a big online presence, that's where I would consider having those small endorsements included.
So you telling me, okay, that by having a home, getting the homeowners insurance policy with you, you can have some business coverage if you're doing from the home?
Depending on the policy and the carrier, there are certain things that could be covered. Okay, we're talking about like a personal like someone's identity fraud protection or cyber liability. So if Kevin Kwan, right, was buying Amazon products or something like that, and then Kevin Kwan's credit card got hacked or Kevin Kwan's information got leaked, Kevin Kwan can then go back to the homeowner's insurance for some kind of relief or some kind of coverage there, depending on the carrier and the endorsements.
Right, but this is where you as a client becomes so important, because they need to contact you first and talk to you first. So making sure that you're covered correctly. So when you go do your claim, we have success rather than have failure.
Absolutely.
So that's the importance to have an insurance agent, especially an individual. Okay, so to me that's paramount. And not only during the process of the real estate transaction, but also through the whole process. The difference between us, and other professions is that, our type of clientele, in your case, they stay with you year over year. In my case, they say, they come back to me, maybe not necessarily year after year, but they'll normally come back to me, on tax season, because they have questions about interest and things like that. And having a local person that you can interact with makes the whole process so much easier, because it's something that you can help them later on. And something I want to recap on something that Anthony said before recording DTIs, now that I have the guitar per se, is that he mentioned that the HOA or association fees affect the DTI. DTI means your debt to income, okay? It's basically the calculation what you make against what your expenses are, okay? So that calculation is what make people get approved or not approved on a mortgage, okay? That's basically on what's called full documented loan, okay? But since we're brokers, we can do many other type of loans. We can do no income loans. We can do obviously full documentation loans. I mean, there's many ways that we can do this. It's, we're not a plain vanilla type of a mortgage company. We have more than one tool in our arsenal to help clients to get their deal done. And that makes a difference, because also by being brokers, we're not obligated, so we work for a specific mortgage company. We actually work for the consumer, and I can have more than one lender, and I can compare side by side, which is the best deal for the client. So that's what makes it humongous different for us as a broker. Pretty much almost like what you do as an insurance agent, with different carriers, and you pick, this carrier, and then you start looking, all right, this carrier might be less money, but this carrier is giving you less protection. So same thing with us. This camera, this guy, they look like having a better rate, but it's actually it costs more. So really, it's not the best deal for the client. So we have to find something in between. So all those items makes us being here at the local level a great tool for consumers and also for real estate agents that can help them improve their business. So that's a huge, humongous thing. And Anthony is such a knowledgeable mortgage loan officer. He can help you out and help you with marketing. Because he also have that specialty. He's real good at that stuff. So,
Hey, Pops.
guys, do you have any more questions or anything like that? I think I want to thank you very much. Before, I'd like to put go ahead, Anthony. So you had a question.
Just just one last question for Kevin, because I know he's a big chess player, and just closing thoughts before we end it. What's your favorite chess move, and what are your closing thoughts?
Thank you for that. Look, if I'm feeling aggressive, I'll open up with d5. That's the queen pawn opening. Lately, I've been going with e5. And then easing into an Italian game. e5 is the king, right? The king's opening. It's nice and smooth. Okay, d5 is like full contact football with no pads, blasting war pigs in the background. Okay. E5 is like walking through the park, listening to Jack Johnson or Rob Thomas, easy going. Listen, closing thoughts, I would just tell you that, insurance is simple until it's not. And nowadays, convenience is what everyone is going for. Being able to go online, pick your own insurance, 15 minutes or less will save you 15%. We all know what that is referring to. But at the end of the day, you get what you pay for, okay? Cheap insurance isn't great, okay? And, it's at the end of the day, my job is to educate my clients, give them options, and help them make the right call, okay? And if I do my job right, I'm just not writing just one policy and saying goodbye. I'm building a relationship for years. Okay. And that's what we're trying to do here at Quant Agency, reliable white glove service. If you come in, Jerry, come on. Jerry, our salesman over here. Jerry, come on, buddy. Come on. He wants to come say hi. Come on, buddy. Come on. Say hi. Come say hi. Oh, come over here. Come say hi, buddy. Yep. Oh. Here he is. Oh, yeah. There's the big boy. So give us a call. Looking forward to working with everyone. And thank you so much for having us here today. Right, Jerry boy? And looking forward to more of these.
Let me put a little twist to this whole meeting. How about if we have a context and whoever wants to play you chess, they should put it on the notes here on this meeting, and then maybe we'll pick a challenger, and then we'll put it on a stream. Is if anybody wants to challenge Kevin for a game of chess,
Really
put your name on the notes right here. Put it on the notes. Put your notes
right now.
And then we'll pick a winner, and then maybe we'll do a $50 prize. How's that?
We'll make it interesting.
A $50 Home Depot card for a prize to play chess against you, and then we'll stream it. How long do you want to do it, Kevin? For 30-minute game?
No. We'll do like a 10-minute each side, so 20 minutes total. And yeah, that sounds good to me.
I'll tell you what. Why don't we do this? Okay, are you going to be in the Denville festival?
I will be. What a great segue. I will be out there at the Denville Street Fair Festival come June, and we'll have the chessboard there. So I hope to see others there, and hope to play a couple games.
Oh, how about if they put their name on the on the conversation right now? Write your name to play chess with Kevin on June, okay? And then I'm gonna grab your name and I'm gonna put a little piece of paper. I'm gonna put it on a box, on something that we can raffle with $50 gift card, okay? So if you put your name, I'll put it on a piece of paper. We'll put it on a raffle, and we'll do the raffle on the day. Obviously, you have to show up and play a chess game with Kevin for that day. So keep the date, Kevin. So if you can post the date of the
Street fair?
festival, what
Mhm.
time you're gonna be there, okay? And this way people know, okay, and then they can put the name on it, and then they can play chess with you while you're at the street fair, Denver Street Fair.
Yeah, Denville Street Fair is Sunday, June 7th. We'll be there from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And if people put their names down in the notes and they come by, we'll make sure to have some goodies there for them, regardless of if they want to play chess or not. I think that's pretty much it. Pops, if you have a few more minutes, a lot of my small business owners, they get worried that they might not be able to qualify for home purchases and home buyers. Is there any tips you would want to give them for that, or Anthony?
Carlos, you want to answer that one?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
A lot of my small business owners, they get worried that they'll never be able to buy a house. Any kind of tips and advice for them as to how to get started, or like where they can, what's the first move to get in position to buying a house?
Well, thank you, Anthony, for throwing that question to me, because I know you can answer, but you just wanted to answer. But yes, absolutely. People that work by themselves, okay, they have opportunities to own a home. Okay. At American Nation Mortgage, we have more than one lender that is willing to look at your deal. Okay. The difference between being a broker that we are, I'm sorry, versus a retail operation is that we can choose lenders. We can say, hey, these guys are better than other guys. If you're dealing with a retail operation, they underwrite with their head on the right way of thinking. Us as a broker, we underwrite whichever way the lender wants to underwrite. So some lenders, they look at certain things, some others, they don't look at certain other things. So I can do loans with no income, I can do loans with bank statement, just a regular profit and loss statement can work as well. So we have many different tools for people that have their own business. Even for people that don't have Social Security, we can actually do those loans as well. Okay. The first step would be, to either contact Anthony or myself. I'd like to share a little slide so you guys can see. I want to share you this stuff. Okay, so I just share you a slide. You guys, can you see the slide?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay. So basically, it's a little information about us. I want to put on a different screen. 1 second, guys. So that's we can do many different loans to process. Okay. 1 second. All right. So yes, we can do it, and you just give us a call.
All right. Sounds like that's the first step, giving you guys a call, and so that you guys can kind of give them other ways to move forward with that. And thanks again for this lunch and learn. Looking forward to the next one, and hope to see some people on June 7th at the Denver Street Fair Festival.
Awesome.
All
Thanks
right.